I, Divyanka, and my schoolmates Pragati and Aastha have got the great opportunity to converse with Shri Vijayan Bala, who has over 4 decades excelled both as an outstanding educationist, a wonderful interviewer, broadcaster, and an author on sports and education. In the field of education, he not only retired as the most involved and committed principal, but also trained teachers of English of leading chain of public schools in Delhi NCR. In the field of sports, he coached young children cricket and football, did sports commentary for All India Radio and Doordarshan, was a very well-known cricket statistician and an interviewer of great repute. As a teacher, he was greatly involved in teaching children about public speaking and quizzing. We are proud to have you, sir, with us.
Sir, you have been a dedicated and most involved educationist. How did you develop an interest in sports?
Well, I owe my interest in sports basically to my late father, Mr. M.S. Bala, and to one of my maternal uncles. As a youngster, I played cricket and football well and was also quite good at basketball and hockey. From childhood, I had a great interest in sporting history and had an aptitude for remembering figures and facts relating to different games. I also used to be fascinated by interviews of different personalities.
Very enlightening, sir. What are the benefits one derives from sports?
Very good question, very useful question, because now even our government is realizing that sports is very important for children. There are a number of benefits one derives from sports. The first benefit is that of physical and mental fitness. In individual sports, we try to better ourselves by reaching the highest levels of perfection and fitness. In team sports, one learns to be unselfish by putting the team above ourselves. We also learn to fight till the end without giving up, keeping in mind that no game is lost till the final moment. Sports also teaches us to lose gracefully. Discipline, hard work, and team spirit are three other benefits we derive from sports.
Thank you, sir.
You have been a sports commentator for All India Radio and Doordarshan. Which sports have you covered? Please mention the main competitions too.
Are very interesting, and despite my teaching commitments, I have been fortunate to do a number of big assignments. Many of them, of course, used to be after school hours, so it wasn't too much of a problem. I've basically covered cricket, football, and hockey for Doordarshan and All India Radio. I started doing commentaries in the last part of the 1970s. I've covered Ranji finals, Duleep finals, Irani Trophy, men's and women's test matches, and ODIs, and the 1987 Reliance World Cup in cricket. I would like to add here that I was one of the 3 commentators who did the only one-day match which was played in Srinagar way back in 1983. That was between West Indies and India. After that, no match took place in Srinagar. I've also done football and hockey. I've covered them in the SAF Games, the Champions Trophy, and the 1986 World Cup in hockey. I have a unique distinction. I'm probably the only person in the world, of course that can be verified, who has been a statistician for a test match and also been a commentator for another test match. I have also done swimming once in the SAF games in the mid-90s, and that too because my student Bhanu Sachdeva was winning the gold. I wished to watch him cover his winning the gold and also interview him after his success.
It is most inspiring, sir. As an educator, how did you spot and nurture talent in different fields?
This is something which is lacking, I feel. I feel our teachers, whether they're in sports or other activities, should pay more attention to this little fact, because unless we as educators spot talent, it is very difficult for talent to come out or to reach the notice of people. To spot and nurture talent, particularly at the school level, one must have the knack for it. One must also, it's called knack. When I say knack, means sixth sense, the gut feeling, oh, this child can do well. One must also not only be prepared to take pains, but also have a genuine interest in the field. I think I possessed all these qualities. For example, whenever I would be given an arrangement period, I would utilize it by either conducting a quiz or holding on-the-spot declamation or debate competitions. This helped me to spot talent. Similarly, during the vacations, I would umpire inter-class matches so that I could closely observe players before selecting them. Once I had shortlisted talented individuals, I would give them the necessary training and exposure. I would like to add here that in fields where I was not directly in charge, I would pass on the names to the teachers concerned.
Thank you, sir, for giving such valuable inputs. Please tell us what we need to do to conduct quality interviews of leading personalities.
Again, it's a very, very good question, right? Because like in any field, one has to work hard, one has to prepare. And the first important thing is to thoroughly know about the person to be interviewed. You must do research, and the person must be, feel like talking to you, no matter how great he or she is. The next step is to prepare relevant questions that follow a proper sequence. As an interviewer, we should just prod and let the interviewee do the talking. The interview must be natural and spontaneous too.
Thank you, sir. Now we know how we are to proceed. What are the traits of a quality sports commentator?
Very good question again. This, of course, I'm talking only from my experience and based on what normally good commentators are like. A good command over the language, irrespective of which language, is a must. And with it, one must learn proper pronunciation. I'll give you a small example when you talk about it. I remember once I had to do a match between a Korean side and a Russian side. And very difficult because both countries, the players have tongue twisters like names. So very tough to catch up. I remember spending 2 days, going to their hotels, meeting them, trying to find out what their pronunciation was, so that when doing the commentary, I was able to do commentary and not only pronounce their names correctly. So it requires a lot of hard work and dedication. Then one has to have the ability to pace oneself according to the situation. If the action is quick, you've got to speak fast. If the action is not very fast, you've got to make it interesting, but you don't have to go over fast. Then a thorough knowledge of the game is a must. And of course, finally, you must have a sense of humor.
Thank you for your input, sir. What is the difference in TV and radio sports commentary?
Yeah, this is something which many of our present day commentators should be told and should learn. In TV sports commentary, one has to be precise. Speak only when required by providing useful information. We only need to add to the visuals shown, say with a technical comment or an observation. In radio commentary, we need to be descriptive, informative, and always on the ball. Our description should be such that the listener feels he or she is watching the game.
Thank you, sir. I feel what you have said will be of great use to budding commentators.
We understand that you have authored a number of books. Please tell us about the books you have written.
I've written six main books. Five of them are on sports and one on teaching. My first book, Indian Test Cricket 1932 to 1974, Statistical Digest, was brought out in 1974 when I was just 23 years of age. And in those days, we did not have many records. It was the first book of its kind in our country. In 2016, before the Rio Olympics, I published a quiz book on Indian sports. This had a foreword by Colonel Rajavan Rathore. Last year, in 2021, I brought out 2 volumes of 75 interviews of famous Indian sports personalities in each book. And these interviews covered a period of 50 years, right from 1971 till 2020. And then I brought out a book on how India won its Olympic medals. This includes the Tokyo Olympics, which happened last year. And it also has an interview with Neeraj Chopra, the gold medalist. In fact, the book contains interviews of both our Olympic gold medalists, Abhinav Bindra and Neeraj Chopra. Then after that, I said I must bring out something on teaching. So I decided to bring out a book that was very close to my heart on being a quality educator, which stresses on, how one should, devote oneself totally to the benefit of children. There are tips for new teachers there. There's a chapter on online education. There are some beautiful thoughts on teaching, plus general, things traits, and that too traits written by stakeholders associated with me as to what a quality educator should be.
Please tell us about your first book, which you wrote on such a difficult subject at such a young age.
Yes, that's a very, very good question. Because, as I mentioned before, in those days, we never had the facilities of net, computers, Google and all those things. One had to do a lot of research, one had to travel far, one had to contact a lot of people to get proper, correct information. But from a very young age, I developed a great interest in cricket statistics, particularly Test cricket. I used to keep scrapbooks which contained detailed scores of tests played by India. This I started collecting from the age of 7. At the age of 23, I was able to bring out the book on Test cricket statistics. Here I would like to mention that I always remain grateful to the great Mr. Vijay Merchant, one of India's finest cricketers, and the person who gave Sunil Gavaskar his first opportunity to play for India. He wrote the foreword despite the fact that I never had a publisher at that time. It was only after, I got a publisher, and that was Vikas from Delhi. So that gave me a huge satisfaction. and it was the only book of its kind in the country at that time.
Truly amazing, sir. Please relate to us any memorable incidents in your career as an educator, interviewer, and commentator for Doordarshan and All India Radio.
Yes, sir. Another very, very interesting thing, but so many wonderful experiences, yet I try to uh, talk about most of them. As an educator, every day used to be special. In fact, I would be looking forward to the next day in school, meeting new children, new situations, and it used to be really a great thing. I still remember very fondly a boy called Shri Bhattacharya, who's presently, the deputy, in fact, the additional Home Secretary in the West Bengal government. I remember teaching him in class 7, and the English he used to write even then was much better than the teachers used to do. Then I had people like very famous news presenters like Barka Dutt and Rahul Shiv Shankar. Both of them were with me. Barka I taught for 5 years, and one could see their talent, and one only encouraged them or gave them suggestions to get better. And finally, a boy called Sri Krishna, who greatly helped me in quiz competitions. He later on went on to top the IAS in 1995. Then again, in Calcutta, when I was with Don Bosco, picking quizzers from class 7 onwards and, telling the teacher concerned that these children will win you the Bournvita. And in fact, they went on to win the Bournvita on 2 successive occasions. And then finally, of course, I was so involved in cricket, I used to umpire matches, and the children I picked in class 6 and 7 went on to win the Bengal Schools title for 2 successive years when they reached class 11 and 12. And then when you come to sports, as far as commentary is concerned, meeting people like Neil Harvey, Balbir Singh Sr. Of course, Balbir Singh Sr. I met while coming down the stairs after doing commentary in Chandigarh, and I saw a gentleman with the Indian blazer on, mentioning 48, 52, and 56. I stopped and I asked him if he was the great Balbir Singh. He said, yes, I happen to be Balbir Singh. So I said, could I come and meet you? And immediately said, he asked his daughter to give the address, and he was kind enough to invite me over. We spent 2 hours talking, and after our conversation, he asked his daughter to bring his autobiography, which he kindly signed and presented to me. And then he did not end there. His kindness, his greatness did not end there. He asked his son-in-law, he said, this gentleman is new to Chandigarh, please drop him at the hotel. So that shows what sports can teach a person or make a person. And then the commentary assignment which I did in the Champions Trophy, I had the good fortune of doing commentary with great hockey players of the country like Gurbakh Singh, Ashok Kumar, Zafar Iqbal, and Charles. And then again in the SAF games, football finals I did with Arvind Nayagam, who was a member of the victorious Indian team which won the Asian Games in 1962. Of course, I've also had, through these interviews, the opportunities of meeting people like Pataudi, Neeraj Chopra, Abhinav Bindra. And one I'll never forget was with Mamta Karab, whom I not only met, I brought her to the school I was associated with, and she not only came, she demonstrated hockey to the children, spoke to them, and spent a lot of time, despite just having come back as, after helping India to win the Commonwealth Games in 2002.
Your journey is highly motivational for us, and your interaction with us are the most motivating.
Sir, did you face any problems pursuing side by side your career in education and your great interest in sports?
I'll just tell you, to be honest, yes, at times I did. And that too because I was working in a private school where you don't get leave too easily. You don't get leave too easily. Had it been a government job, then maybe I could have comfortably done both together, because you get leave quite easily in a government and they care for you, they respect you that way. But striking the right balance at times was extremely difficult. Both fields demand total commitment. Whether you're doing commentary, whether you're teaching in the class, it requires total commitment. So whether one likes it or not, one at times had to take strong, painful decisions. I mean, for me, since I loved both, it was difficult at times saying no to one and yes to the other.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views. It will be of great use for youngsters like us. And finally, what do we students need to keep in mind when deciding on a career?
I think it's a very, very relevant and good question. You must take up a career which you enjoy, right? Because they say that if you enjoy the work you're doing, then you've never worked a day in your life. Remember that. And it must be a career which you think of even in your sleep. You're dreaming about it all the time. Then you're sure to be a success there. What is generally required is blessings of your parents and God, and of course self-belief. The rest of it will automatically happen. But the choice of the career should be such. You must love what you're doing. And you must also have one more thing in mind. Remember, you must decide that you will become the best in the field. There's no second at all as far as that is concerned. Then you'll have chosen the right career and you'll be a happy person. Not only will you be a happy person, you'll make your family members happy, and the next generation will also be happy, right? So you'll ensure that.
Thank you, sir, for this most useful advice.
All of us from SD Public School Pitampura will cherish this interaction we have had with you, sir, as you have not only taught us so much, but also have shown us how we can make almost ideal career choices. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, the three young ladies. Thank you very much for doing such a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.